Welcome everybody to the Monday, March 10th, 2025 joint meeting of the Select Board and Finance Committee. Call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda are to approve the minutes for March 3rd. Look them over, brief but very well summarized. So I'll make a motion to vote to approve the minutes for March 3rd.
No, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous, thank you. Next item on the agenda are the warrants. Put them over, the only thing out of the ordinary is there were some repairs for the ambulance. Jim is gonna come in today and speak to those. We totaled just over 1,500. So I will make a motion to approve accounts payable warrant in the amount of $117,948.65. The payroll warrant in the amount of $147,587.36. And then the payroll deduction warrant in the amount of $35,872.18. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meetings attended by select board members, Erica.
Second. I have negotiations this week and we're having a full committee public hearing this week.
I was supposed to attend the meeting today that I had a kerfuffle with because although my phone was updated with the new time, my computer was not. So luckily Veronique was there for that call. Thank you, Veronique. Moving past public comments. No unfinished business. We are waiting on their finance committee, so we can move on to new business. Actually, let's move on to mail real quick.
Okay.
We had some mail come in from Sun Property Group asking if we'd be willing to sell 24 Fournier Road, which is our school. So I'm going to politely decline. Yeah, I don't know. They said it's for,
A subdivision?
you know, we specialize in synergetic solutions.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, synergy.
Yeah.
There's also some, there's also some mail from, basically stating that the Department of Telecommunications and Cable is changing their office location. That, okay, back on to new business. Second item on new business is, the discussion on and vote to sign an MVP 2.0 grant contract. Okay. I have this in front of me.
Yeah, that's the last one that needs the signature, so. So basically, this is the grant that we're doing in conjunction with Ashfield.
Yep.
Updating our plan. And since we're the lead town, you all get to be the ones to sign the contract with the state.
Lucky us.
Yep, the total is 175,000. But we don't really have much more information than that yet. They're waiting for all the paperwork to come back and then they're gonna give us more information about how to proceed and have a kickoff meeting.
The maximum obligation. Is 175.
Yes.
That's the signature of, it looks like it's on me.
Oh, good.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I don't know which side it's on, but CEO.
Now, there's something I'm very like.
Yes.
So, if you all are okay, I'll make a motion to sign the MVP 2.0 contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, this is contractor.
No, it's the other one.
Oh,
Yeah, this is.
is that the case?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you need to sign it. Let me,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're the contractor because,
Oh, contractor information, you're correct. Thank you. I was messing
because
up.
I do this all the time, but I work,
Yeah.
for the state, yeah, so we.
Every single day.
State contract. we don't sign.
Yeah, and I just realized our vendor number's on there, so I can fill it out.
Sign all this.
Thank you so much. You're going on that. Should be an interesting process. This one will definitely be making a big effort to include the entire community of Conway as much as possible.
This next item on the agenda, we had already gone through the contract with our town administrator here and put it in the contract, but we just want to make it finalized with the vote.
Yeah.
So it's on the appointment of position of the TA as the chief procurement officer. Again, we went through the contract.
Yeah.
Nothing really to say here, so I'll just go ahead and make a motion. All right, all in favor? Aye.
So just so you know, I'm in the middle of taking the final classes for renewing my MCPPO, and one of them was on the role of the chief procurement officer. And so I asked this question, said, well, it's really just best if the select board.
Right, because otherwise it would be like the chair of the select board, or it's gotta be someone.
It's gonna be someone, but it just, even though it's in my contract, that's not official. It wasn't a vote by the
Right.
board to, yeah, so that's all that comes.
We have a letter, based on your recommendation and good recommendation from Mara Healy. Nothing has been written on this yet.
Okay,
Eric and I signed our name. If you want to sign your name with the same pen,
okay,
if you want to be in charge of writing the letter,
sure.
okay.
There you go.
And Louise printed that out for us, which I thought was really
Oh,
appropriate,
that's
because that's where she
Yeah, no, that's
was.
great.
So I'll leave you with that if I can get the pin.
Yes.
But thank you,
I will do
Elaine,
it.
for your recommendation.
Yes.
Okay, last item on new business before we get to the first item when the residents are here is the discussion and vote to sign letters to landowners near the covered bridge for the MVP project. We had discussed before for water mitigation near the covered bridge. We have the letters that we did get approved through our council. How do we do that?
There's 9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You were correct. 9 property owners.
And behind there is the map updated that I will attach to each of the letters, and this time I'm gonna send them out return receipt just to be absolutely sure that everybody receives it in a timely fashion.
And we want to see the letters.
Can you remind me what MVP stands for?
Sorry, municipal vulnerability program. So each of those will need to be signed by you, so if you wanna, as you go through.
Time to look over.
Oh, right, yeah.
So basically, it's gonna lower the floodplain, the lowering of the floodplain will potentially impact.
And
Right,
flowing
so,
from
right,
South
yeah.
River down.
right, on that map, it shows in pink the parts that they're talking about lowering the floodplain. And it does impact all of those properties. Some of them are the town of Conway, so the town could still proceed with just the town owned parcels. But it would be nice to have buy-in from all of the landowners.
In the meantime, if you want to call, since you have a quorum, I do apologize, but we have some residents coming in for probably a longer discussion. So,
We want to be phoned, right?
yeah, no, I'd like
See
to
what's
kind
out
of
of
push it through here.
Make a motion to call the finance committee in order. Make a motion to approve the finance committee minutes, March 3rd. Second, all in favor?
So I make a motion that we as a select board, sign these letters to, the property owners, the 9 property owners affected by potential, the lowering floodplain project. 115.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
have representatives. I know Jim's gonna come in, but do we have a representative for veterans
No, they've sent in their budget, so I'll just review that.
and Frontier?
No, but the budget was voted on and is finalized. That's true.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure.
I am here.
Yeah.
I am here.
Did you have any other members you were planning on, that are planning on joining? Roy?
I know you heard.
Unknown? Well, why don't we start with the-
Spiral.
Why don't we start with veterans, because there's probably not much to look at here.
No. Oops.
Not that veterans aren't much to look
Okay. Okay, so this is the request that came in. As a matter of fact, they are so on top of things that they've already sent me the FY 26 invoice for the benefits. I'm sorry, for the operating budget. Right here. So basically, this budget is split up into three parts. One is these are benefits that may or may not, but could potentially be claimed to the town for our veterans. This is our assessment for the operating budget. And then the last one is including flags that are put up both in the cemetery and on the street. So you can see it hasn't gone up all that much, but it is an increase.
No questions. Yeah, thank you.
Questions? Do you want to do Frontier since Phil's right here?
Yes. Jim's coming in there.
Yeah, I told her closer to 6:30. So. Oops, well, that was a little bit. Okay,
at. Somebody looking in there.
yeah, that's Suzanne. Okay, so Bill, do you want to?
Yeah, so the Frontier budget, this year, in the first time in living memory, is a double digit in Conway, double digit decrease in Conway's assessment. And just a brief note on why that is. So the Frontier assessment to Conway is based on a 5-year average rolling average, among other things. The year that was dropped off has 98 students, something. The year that was added has 80 students or something like that. Both of those numbers are a little bit, but the main reason for the decrease in our assessment, however, is the change made in the EQB formula based on the community's relative net worth relative to the community's population. And which determines the state minimum mandatory contribution to your regional school. And so that formula is the income of all taxpayers in the zip code divided by the number of taxpayers in the zip code. And we had at least one and sort of 1.5 high income taxpayer leave the zip code in the past fiscal year. And it's one of those things that's, they drop that number in your lap, you have no idea it's coming, and this is the result of it. What that meant also is that Sunderland and Deerfield saw increases in their minimum mandatory contribution based on that formula. So that they both have, Sunderland has a double-digit increase percentage, and Deerfield has a near double-digit increase percentage.
No, Whately's budget is that like 12%.
Yeah, really well. So, the other thing is that next year, although it looks really good for this year, next year is going to be a horror show because the 5-year rolling average of students just based on the number of 11th graders currently there from Conway is going to go up. Plus that we're at that baseline now, so we're not gonna see a decrease from the EQV from the wealth, the relative wealth. So next year, percentage wise, it's gonna be ugly, just letting you know. This year, however, enjoy it, so,
That's it.
Excellent.
yeah, so,
That's great, it's great time because of the Conway Grammar School we have in there now to, take all the free cash and give a real needed boost to the Conway Grammar School students.
exactly,
And this is like our window of opportunity.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, the other thing is, with regard to the capital, there is no capital request from Frontier. There are two major capital projects that are being paid for in-house, as they say.
Oh, wow.
So that's, you know, the
Stars are aligned.
the pavement,
It'll take them.
the parking lot, the state is mandating that they fix the parking lot for safety reasons.
They say fix the park, not we do patch paving.
Repave it and take out,
Entirety?
yeah, it has to be made safe for pedestrians as well. It's
Sure.
apparently very unsafe for student pedestrians.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the continuation of the roof and the fire panel, and that's something that has been put out to bid now 3 times, the fire panel, and each time it requires the state fire marshal, because of the disabled students, the fire alarms have to be more than just an alarm, there has to be video, it's the whole thing, so there's a lot to it, and those numbers kept going up. But, so that's what Frontier is doing, with a lot of the monies that they could have otherwise devoted to return to towns.
So you said earlier a change to the EQV, was that a change to the formula or was that a change to the inputs that went into?
It was a change to inputs that were in
Okay.
the formula. I wish they would change the formula. It was good luck with that. That's
Well,
something.
we are campaigning on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you can't, Desi opposed to changing the formula.
Mhm.
And it's because it apparently works really, really well for all towns over 3,000 or so. It leads to very fairness and blah, 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 blah. But the problem is it breaks down, you know, just like we were fortunate that somebody moved out of town, we could be equally unfortunate that somebody moves into town in any given year as well. That's, like I say, we're probably the only state in the country that financially penalizes in this way, small towns for a wealthy person really good.
So the
Very
questions
well.
given
Very
very
well.
increase.
No,
I have a question, Phil. Are you on the negotiating committee for the unions?
Yes, I
Is
am.
there an ETA for the,
I'm on there too, and
Yeah,
it's no,
so
yeah,
you're Frontier, you're handling Conway.
I'm
Union
both,
38.
Are you in third in?
I'm both, and I was the chair of the Frontier negotiating committee, and we just came to a tentative agreement last Thursday.
Oh, congratulations.
The union doesn't need to ratify that until the 18th of this month, so the numbers are still embargoed. But it is our hope that Union 38 would come in. If Union 38 comes in that general framework, within that general framework that we established with Frontier teachers, that would be something we could all.
Alrighty.
All right,
Gemma is
we have
here.
all the residents waiting. I just want to get Gemma
Yeah.
to go over 231. We did see,
Gemma, there's a.
Yeah. we did see in the warrants the repairs that we did, so.
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk about this. Thank you, Gemma.
So I tried to keep stuff as, close as I could, but. Unfortunately, given the age of the ambulance, their, maintenance is getting more needed at this point, so I did go up on that a little bit. And also our intercept, which is the transfer line, we have an aging population and our patients have been sicker and needed, we've needed more paramedic intercepts than in the past, in the last year and a half.
For
So,
the intercept is when you have to call in, like,
paramedic,
yeah.
yeah. So those were the biggest changes. Just supply stuff I went up on some because everything is getting more expensive. We still have to have the same amount of equipment. So, what do I think?
Is there any motion mandated things in the fire department have to change out here?
Not so much OSHA as just the state requirements that we have to meet for certain things. So, they've added, like, we have to have. One of the new things we have to carry is like a canine oxygen mask for dealing with if there's a police canine involved in an incident. So there's a few changes as far as what we're legally allowed to do. We're also looking at increasing our training to be able to carry like albuterol and stuff, which will then obviously add more expense for more medication, different equipment for, distribution of that and things like that.
About the training,
Training costs have stayed relatively the same. We haven't had to expend as much on training because we just don't have as many EMTs. So, and if anybody wants to become an EMT, please let me know. I will be more than happy to help pay for your training. But, so that being said, the training side of things, it stayed fairly level the last few years, and I'm hoping that someday we're gonna have more people to train, and be able to spend more money on training.
So, like, we have EMTs on call who in town, basically, that number.
Yeah.
How many do we have on the break? What would be like your ideal number?
I would love to have like, at this point, even like 6 or 8 would be
So
great.
at least doubling the number.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that you'd be willing to. Like train, like pay for training for local people to become EMTs if you're looking to serve as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pretty much have, there's a couple of different options. You can either pay for your training up front, and then when once you're trained and you're on the ambulance for a year, then we would reimburse all the costs of the training. Or we have done it for some people where we have paid for the training up front because it's not, it technically pays to a 6 credit college course. So it's not a cheap class and it's not easy to pass. So usually a lot of people don't like getting it paid for up front because then they have to act like, if they don't pass it and they
Yeah.
don't work for the town for a year, they have to pay the money back. So,
But there is some
but
incentive.
those are options that are available that we have done in the past in both aspects.
I have a question, the revolving fund. This question that maybe for you, Bernie, and for Mike, controller, county council, but is it the revolving fund at this point? $100 amount,
Which one? Because the ambulance actually has several. They've got ambulance
You mean the-
receipts.
The receipts reserve or the stabilization?
There.
Right now, as of the last number I had from Mike, it's 97,000.
And just so you're aware on the budget here, and I know it's a little confusing, but every year the ambulance department only asks for us to put 25,000 in Article 2. So the 42,546 is what's remaining that will come out of ambulance reserve receipts, and that will be a warrant article separately.
And Narcan money, is there any Narcan money that can go to help with our budget going forward?
You might be able to speak with the Board of Health about the opioid funds. They're in charge of disbursements, and my understanding is we were getting free Narcan, I believe.
I'm thinking of repairs for the ambulance.
Oh, no, 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 I don't think so.
Has a short shelf life too.
Yeah, it's 1 year. Look, boy, comes and over.
And then as far as the ambulance, obviously we have the stabilization fund, but there've been recent repairs for it. What's the timeline you feel where we need to look at ordering, because it's gonna take time to get it?
It's good to talk. That's it. Chris and I, we started talking with PL Custom and some other companies for, specs and prices on a new ambulance. Most likely we will end up going, if we can figure it out, we'll be going with PL Custom just because they have features that we prefer and work better. The chassis that they use have been more durable and better, you know, received by a lot of firms in town. But right now, the price that we're getting, and unfortunately, there's a pretty big window of cost just based on the timeline that it's gonna take. We're looking at about 2.5 to 3 years for a new vehicle. So,
Now, we're only talking the chassis and the frame and everything, right? The actual shelter will just be put on the new.
no,
so
this will be a complete
replacement.
rebuild, complete new, all new material. We had done a remount with a box
Mhm.
in 2013. And so at this point, the box is, I don't even know, I mean, long before I was an EMT, it's pushing 20 years old, if not older. And it's definitely got some issues. There's parts that aren't available or repairs needed on the box. There's just cosmetic stuff as far as, you know, the paint and stuff is starting to, it needs a complete replacement. And the numbers I've gotten on the low side of things, we're looking at around 450,000. On the high side, we're looking at upwards of 625, depending on what shape, how much we can pay up ahead of time. I did hear from the rep either yesterday or today that they do sometimes offer a discount if you're gonna, you know, pay up front, or, and I asked him if we do a chunk, does that lock us in at something better price wise? He said obviously the final amount will be when we get the ambulance in. When we first started talking to them, they were saying they were looking at like the fourth quarter of 2027. And it's now looking like that it might be closer to the beginning of 2028. That being said, there's, you know, he said things might change, other departments might back out, there might be. A lot of it's also gonna depend on the amount of customization that we want. Which for the most part, we don't need a whole lot. We've looked at a couple of other specs and drawings that they have done for other departments, and it's fairly similar to what we want, so we wouldn't need to. They're not gonna have to do a lot of extra work, I guess, for us to get what we want.
Okay, so there's no option for a used ambulance.
Not, I don't think that would be a logical thing to do, because I think that you're just potentially buying somebody else's problems. There is, I do need to send him information on our ambulance, and he'll get me any kind of trade-in offer that they might have, whether or not we go with taking, you know, a trade-in from them, or the town decides to keep it towards highway like it's been done in the past. That's, you know, that'll be up to
Do we know how much is in still? Is it 340?
340.
40 something, 343, I think.
$340,961.45.
That's not a number.
Is there any option to buy, like, not in bulk, but buy? I assume not, because you're customizing so much, but buy it with other towns buying at the same time, yeah, like a.
Probably, I don't know.
There's a problem with that though. Cause you have
Probably
South
ready
County,
at the same time.
right, you have South County, and then if you're going west, like, first you're going towards Ashland, they have their own region lines as
Yeah.
well.
So,
Yeah, well, I was thinking, I know the people that own Apollo ambulance and it runs out of Northampton, out of Holyoke, and they have, well, they're actually across the state, and they probably buy ambulances every day,
yeah,
you know, I just didn't know, I mean, I can compare them, and she's got it.
I mean, there might be, but I think given the area that we're in, I mean, South or Shelburne Falls just got a new ambulance within the last like 6 months. Charlemont also, there, some of the other towns around us have just replaced their ambulances.
Yeah.
They've had, you know, pros and cons and good and bad with all of the departments around us that we've talked to, so we kind of like, all right, well, maybe we're not. gonna go
Everybody's
that way.
brain,
Maybe
that's
we're
awesome.
not gonna, you know, trying to figure out the best case for, you know, what's gonna get us the best value for the money.
Yeah.
At this point, you know, the ambulance we have now, it's been good, it's doing good, it just
Coming to the end of his life.
stuff happens and it, you know, it's, the state recommends you replace them every 10 years, we're at, you know, 12 to 13 years on this one,
Is
so.
that for the, cause you said that was the box, but is that like the vehicle itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll kind of accept like one remount for the box if the box is still in decent condition.
Yeah.
Which, you know, and when we had our state inspection 2 years ago, the inspector was very impressed with how well our ambulance has been kept up in the condition that it's in, given its age. We have our inspection coming up again, it'll be sometime in the next month and a half. And I'm guessing that this time around, he's gonna be like, all right, you guys really need to start, you know, making the steps forward for replacement, especially since we're looking at a 2 to 3 year lead time.
Yeah.
Which we're at that point.
So 2 to 3 year lead time, so we can put down what percentage can we put down and pay the balance on delivery. I was thinking from a capital budgeting standpoint, then we can.
Yeah. we have
If you're looking at a
350.
max of 650, we have 343 or 341, excuse me.
So I'm thinking, 75,000 per year, future next 4 years will bring us up.
Oh, you mean to put aside from free cash?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
Figure it out
hoping,
right now. Thinking of-
yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that we gotta consider in the next. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks, I'll get a more solid number from them. We're also waiting to hear from our striker representative, who does the stretcher system that we have. There's a possibility that we can reuse some of the components that we have now, and that would cut down on not having to pay, you know. A complete power load system is between 80 and 90,000. And that's, you know, all the electronics, the mounting brackets, the stretcher, everything. So if we can reuse our stretcher, that's, you know, we can knock off some, it's not gonna be a huge amount, and the rep that I've been talking to from PL Custom. He said the 625, you know, the 650 is definitely a padded number, just because nobody knows what the inflation changes are gonna be in 3 years.
Right.
So he's also gonna figure out what kind of discount or, you know, if we pay a chunk now or we pay all of it, or what, you know, if we can swing doing that somehow, you know, does that lock that price in regardless of what happens in 3 years?
we'll have to talk with Mike about that, because
Yeah, there's, you know, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of variables at this point that we need to get finalized. But it's definitely something that we're actively looking at.
So the medical equipment that it's also requirements now because patients are heavier. And the tolerances have to be increased. Is that an issue now?
Yeah, I mean, the structure that we have now has, I think, a lifting capacity of 700 pounds. So we've already kind of hit that point of, and we do have a power stretcher. We don't have the power load system, so we still have to manually load the stretcher into the ambulance, which sometimes can be difficult, on short, so that makes things interesting sometimes.
The three people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
don't forget, 18% increase in healthcare.
Yeah.
Mainly driven because of Ozempic, so we shouldn't have a problem.
That'd be great.
okay, yeah, let me know how that goes.
So I also hate to expedite this.
Yeah.
On the 6:15, so.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Gemma?
No, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate every year. You do a great job in the budget.
Jelly, you're gonna be putting in though for the, reserve fund transfer, right?
Yeah, they should, I put it in the finance committee mailbox last week.
Oh, okay, all right, I didn't realize that, or I would have sent
Maybe
it
they
out to
got- I don't
everybody.
know if they did or not. but-
Yeah, I don't think anybody's checked the mailbox, so
Okay.
I'll send it out to you all.
Well, thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
You're the reason why that inspection went well, so.
Yeah. Really.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Gemma, thanks. Finance committee. On to new business, discussion on work to be completed. It says Pine Hill area, but Pine Hill and Baptistville area. Which was kind enough to act as a sort of liaison.
Yeah.
Now you did send us 4 questions. Do you want us to start with those or?
You spent all afternoon preparing statements, and I should read
Why don't we read that? Yes.
Hey, waste your afternoon.
And, most of my neighbors are, many of the neighbors behind you. Well, thanks for the time tonight. Neighbors have asked me to be the spokesperson tonight, so we kind of channel the discussion and hopefully be a little more, hopeful and positive. And first, I guess what I wanted to do was, tell you, like, I've been telling people over the last 2 weeks, and asked about the subject of the stormwater system collapse. And I told them that, it's been a huge win because of the work the selection and the administrator put into redirect this money to the project. Before that, I was thinking, we buried on the actually still cemetery there, before I see anything.
And then walked away.
Yeah, it didn't want to like. So thank you for that work to redirect that money to make this happen sooner. But as everything in life, the devil's in the details, which is why we're here tonight, because, like you, we want to ensure that the stormwater system works well in a time of climate change and more intense storms and more frequently. Once we have personal financial interests in the job getting done right. So we might be a little more, see that, I don't think it's for us as personal. And even though you guys have been working to get this significant storm or flood fix funded, some of us feel that so far the communication with us and participation by us has been lacking. But I've been an observer of small town governments long enough to know that there's usually, that's usually talk to the course, we're not all expert communicators, and sometimes this information doesn't work its way back and forth as it ought to in ideal circumstances. So that's why we're here tonight. That's why we sent you the questions ahead of time, so you have a chance to ponder them and provide us with some thorough, we hope, thoughtful replies. So I said that, we're gonna hear what your answers are to our questions, and afterward, with your indulgence, I'll try to somehow moderate any follow-up questions people have. So
Does
that's it.
anybody want to move up here, or you all kind back
Yeah.
there? If you want to come
So
up.
it's more of a, so weird.
So, I know.
Yeah, on the way over here today, I was thinking, you guys really want to rotate this whole business around so the public can actually see it instead of the back of your head. I know there's projections on it, but.
Yeah, and that's cat problems.
I don't think,
We're usually here.
Yeah.
The other big question I have for you, by the way, Rose, we did it before or after you?
Depends on the prediction of the meeting. Like,
Let's wait for Erica to return.
Yeah.
I will say, obviously, this is personally significant to all of you, but, it is very important to us too. We obviously want this to be done right. We don't wanna spend money and work on a project that isn't robust or doesn't do the right job, and it has to be done. Right, so,
because the money won't be there to redo it as well. Necessary. Hard to keep from-
You know, you don't feel obviously.
yes.
Mary Irwin.
Yes.
And then.
All right.
I'm late.
I saw we had
It's
Suzanne.
Crowley, there is
Yes.
my daughter, Don Crowley and my daughter,
Okay.
and. Suzanne Arden lives also in the Baptist Hill area. Suzanne's online.
And there's other neighbors who
Who
can't be
couldn't make it.
here, right,
Yeah.
John Portis is one that's directly impacted, so. There's other people watching or who will be watching the recording.
At different times.
So I have the questions in me, I will state the question, I'll give my answer to the best of my ability. If you all want to add anything, please do. Okay, so the first question was, what was the total amount of flood repair funds received and how much has already been spent? Okay, so for the state, we received a total of 1.245 million for the two floods. To date, about 400,000 has been spent. Or I'm sorry, is remaining, is remaining of that 1.245 million. And that is, that'll be spent on materials, fixing roads, gravel, everything like that. I know you're gonna ask a question about another fund, and we'll get to that with your questions here. How much, there's really nothing to state there, that's actual numbers, right? So how much has been spent on the Baptist Pine Hill project? So the initial quote for GZA was just over 56,000. There was about a 10,000, just over $10,000 deduction, from not including the finalized report, and we'll get to that reason as well. So, that total would be about 56,000. I'm sorry, 46,000 for the GZA assessment. And then, of course, I don't have the figures for the pipe that the highway department put in on the west side of Baptist. That runs down to the new catch basin. I don't have the cost for that. How much funding did we get for the Shelburne Falls Culvert project that we were able to reallocate for use in this project? What other projects are we using this funding to support? So that we initially received $1 million grant for the culvert project. Those culverts on Shelburne Falls Road needed immediate repair before we even realized that we won the grant. Those were repaired by the highway department. We took a lot of effort into writing back to try to change the scope of work to keep the money, grant money. We were approved, but it's still a process right now. We don't have a finalized figure on what we're going to receive. That money is to be used for a variety of things that are in the scope of work, which I believe we did say Baptist Hill
Oh,
was
absolutely.
part of that.
Oh, absolutely,
Yes,
yes.
think you
it's
sent us
task
a letter.
C.
Right.
It says it's task C in that document, and there is a price with it.
$343,300.
There you go, thanks.
So, you know, that was obviously a win for everyone here. Is, that we were awarded that grant and that not only were we awarded it, but that we were able to get approval on changing the scope of work to keep that grant money. Let's see here. What was the estimate of total damage from the two floods? Was that one of the questions?
No.
No,
One, two, three.
Curious over the answer.
Almost 4 million. It was 3,820,000
That was just.
and ongoing.
That was just the public properties though.
What's
That
that?
was just the town and
The
public
town.
property, not
yeah,
the,
not
Correct.
private
not the
property.
private property. like
Yes,
swimming
just the
pool
town.
or-
Correct. Of those, in those two floods, being July floods, we had 28 roads that were decimated.
Roads. 5 of which Mass DOT, 5 of our federally assisted roads, Mass DOT actually repaired for us. So between the probably at least a couple $1 million that Mass DOT spent on our roads, not counting 116. Plus the $1.245 million, basically the state made us whole. Although we're still, obviously, we need to finish with the gravel roads in town. They're still needing to be material added and grading.
Yeah, so, like Veronique said, MassDOT did about $2 million worth of work. Out of that, getting out of that 1.245, there's about 400,000 left. And that, and we have the other grant that we're hoping to get finalized here very soon.
And that other grant is approximately how much you're hoping?
Mass Works, it's $1 million,
But for task C,
but for task C, it's, yeah,
it's 342.
right.
Yes.
So I guess the question I'd have would be, of these various sources, how much do you think in ballpark numbers would be available for the Baptist Hills stormwater system?
342,
Total,
yes.
okay, from various sources or whatever.
No, that's just from Mass Works. That's the only source.
All right, so you don't, yeah, you don't.
You're not gonna designate the 10 balance of the GZA money if we don't have enough to do Baptist Hill work. You won't designate the GZA balance of 10K to the Baptist Hill area drainage.
There was no
page.
plan to do that. I'm not sure how much $10,000 would do, but the rest of the funds, as far as I understand it, Ron needs to buy materials for the gravel roads.
So, okay, I'll finish the first
Yeah.
one.
Okay, I think that information covers our question 1. The second question was, who's designing the storm drain rebuild? And where do things stand in that planning process right now?
So we had 2 assessments. The initial came from FERCog. The second was GZA. GZA has been the one to offer the plan, the plan on paper for the repairs that, of course, there's plan you see on paper and what can happen in the field, right? So we need to also rely on the highway department to help assess that plan and see what is really what can happen. We did, yeah, I don't know if I should expand more.
No.
So, I know that, you know, we had received the engineering questions from your engineer, and we did send those to GZA to look that over as well.
Because I guess,
May I ask when that was sent?
When I received it, what was that, a
Couple
couple weeks ago?
Whenever,
But they had already been terminated.
yeah, but
No,
they're
no, we're
still,
still working. with
we're still
GZA.
working with them on
The
numerous
only thing
projects.
the only thing that stopped was, one, it was taking far too long, I thought, the GZA to get responses back. When they said that the final report was gonna be done, it wasn't done. Some of the information that was in the report,
It was,
well, it wasn't it wasn't accurate as far as the rainfall that we received during the storm. So the only thing that would have been done with that 10,000 is to basically take that report and put it into like an AutoCAD. And I felt we didn't need that because again, one, they were taking too long. We needed to get this going. It's been how long already, right? And two, again, whatever's on paper is fine, but it has to be implemented in the field. So no matter what, you can put it in AutoCAD. What use do we have for that? So at that point is when I asked if we could terminate the project and get the money back.
So, but the question I keep coming back to is, you build a house, and a designer or an engineer or an architect draw all the blueprints, so that the builder knows what the land is. And so I just imagined that after having studies done by GZA and the quality people and whoever else, that material would then be taken by someone, civil engineers like term, and converted into a set of equivalent of blueprints that would say exactly what size inlets and culverts and boxes, et cetera, would be installed at what depths and connected by what size pipes and so forth. And take that study and convert it into an actual plan that presumably our highway guys would review and tweak and follow, execute the stormwater system. And to some degree, I guess, the engineer that Lori and others hired to review the situation up there, in his letter that you got, I think that, everyone's quoting, Donald Trump these days, but, it talks about the GCA report being the concept of a plan, not a really, design plan. And we asked him the other day about what would an actual plan design cost. But he said, I guess the number was in the ballpark of $40,000. And he enumerated all the specific things that an engineer would do. That is a step between what you guys have in your hands now and what the builder. Yeah, that Ron and I have probably. So I guess that's one of our big questions, is who's going to design this?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, that we're still working with GZA. So look at GZA plans, looked the plans over, we had some suggestions. Passed those to the GZA. GZA looked at it, signed off on it, and that's gonna continue to happen until we're actually ready to implement it.
So GCA will produce the final blueprints for the work.
GZA already presented us with their,
That GCA calls itself its own word, a preliminary proposal. It does not call its own work a design engineering plan. It makes recommendations. It adds far more knowledge about sea sources on the hill. The contract requested a dialogue with residents, and residents can tell you a lot more about how the water works on the hill than what's, it adds to the GZA has more information that's accurate than FERCog about where the water is. But to this day, we do not have in the combined FERCog and GZA reports submitted to Mass Works accurate presentation of how the water on the interior of where you discharge water, especially how it works. And GZA has never done a study of the interior from the Forcier interior to all the abutting properties as it goes down to River Street.
That's one.
Yeah, that's-
That we want to make. The other is the one I made, which is even if they have that information.
Yeah.
We thought that there would be a real blueprint for the system. As opposed to, I have a lot of respect for Ron. This guy works his butt off. But I guess I see it more akin to Because I'm thinking of building a house, and so I have this analogy, because I see it more akin to, the general contractor in hiring, who's had lots of experience building houses and probably build one from the ground up without a blueprint. That's not the same as if I asked him to build me a multi-story office building.
Right,
He
I
would need
think
a set of
anybody
blueprints.
wants to spend that kind of money on something with a
Right.
designated
One set of
plan.
blueprints designed by some architect, or structural engineer, feel is gonna work. And I guess that's the analogy I see. I know next to nothing about excavation and installing storm drains and all that sort of stuff. But I think I would feel better if I knew that someone with a stamp, and whose reputation's on the line. With the concept of the plan and took it that next step. That our guy could then implement.
So, above and beyond GZA.
Could be GCA, could be anybody, could be Ty and Bond, could be, anyone.
So like, what would be accepted, like, what kind of, I mean, like,
There needs to be a look at when you discharge water with a culvert onto property, where does it go? How does it work? And there's none of that kind of information and what is the overflow velocity and volume of water moving through a 15-inch pipe that goes from the Fitzgibbon property, 2,400 feet all the way around the curve, gets Pine Hill water added to it. What is how are you relying on overflow capacity to be handled by the culverts that go down through private property? Because currently, the culverts taking water down private property are causing significant damage. And an engineer's design for what the pipes carrying a 15-inch pipe carrying water is going to contain and how those culverts are placed really where the water is really matters. You can put a culvert up there and it's like in the wrong place. And it's without understanding what happens when the water comes out of the culverts is to be missing a huge piece of information. And in your design and the work plan that is that the waiver funds, the 342 funds, there's no easements or swale building in that plan. And in the FERCog and in the GZA report, there are numerous swales. And why is that not being considered as part of the engineering? I mean, that's like, I would ask an engineer that question.
I guess I think we sent you this,
Yes.
letter
Yeah.
from Ethan, but I just wanted to
Can I just
refresh your
respond?
memory about what it says.
Quickly, you're talking about the swales on private property that the FERCog.
Well, when the
recommended.
town is like pouring water at a rate of, at a very, very high rate.
I just wanted to know where the swales were.
The
that you're
swales
talking
are all on private
about. On private
property.
property.
Yeah, they're all on private property.
All these reports, imagine, for example, I know my property, all these, two reports, the GCA information and the COG information, both imagine a bigger culvert, next to my chicken coop, from 15 inches to 24 inches.
Yeah.
To move water under the road and basically across my north meadow
Mhm,
to the ravine.
mhm.
And down my ravine and fine, that's where the water kind of wants to go anyway. But what I think Lori is saying is, they just assumed that I'm okay with that, and I probably am, but you think there'd be a little bit of thought given to that engineering, right, or at least getting an easement, a formal easement, so that it doesn't require me to go out there with a shovel every so often and dig a trench. So this is,
And on my property, there's a very, very long swale that goes all the way along the perimeter of the west side of the property. And all of the maps assume that the waters are, like, assumes where the water's coming from. and that some of the water is going in that direction at the moment.
But not to get too deep into the weeds, I guess those are a couple of examples
Yeah.
of how we feel. What the information we have up to now is not 100%, but there ought to be someone looking at that information and saying something about it in the final design test.
So we have obviously some questions we need to go back to the GZA for. We were talking about communication. Would you like to stay as sort of the liaison with the discussions with the GZA?
But I'll do whatever my neighbors are happy to, right, okay? Because we do, there's just those kinds of questions that are out there. And in this engineer's report, I found it interesting to say, based on the concept drain plan suggested in the GCA report, there's the new inlets and structures and pipes and warranted along Baptist Hill. It seems quite reasonable, particularly dovetailed with the remaining paving work that needs to be done. So he's very sort of supportive and complimentary about how things have gone so far. Then he points out that neither the GZA nor the highway department plans are complete. In essence, there's no plan, but only the concept of a plan. Which, by the way, I love. And I think that's exactly the right idea, catch that water and move it underground mostly. Into the river. Building a drain system without knowing if the system will resolve the ongoing issues is unwise and potential waste of hundreds of thousands of dollars. I strongly recommend that the town have a fully engineered drainage and road grading plan developed. So it's reiterating what I've been saying. Such a plan should be based on the current hydrological model created by GCA and use a design storm that acknowledges Nicosuka meets about 25-year storms and 8 inches of rain this way. Which all of us, I think, want to do. We want to have within the budget available, a system that will be forward looking, right, to the extension. But to answer your question, you can do a flash drive, but one of us I'd love to sit in on whatever communication.
Because everybody's goal is to get it improved and fixed and so people can recover and
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
Not feel good about their property and feel good about more of this stuff. Nobody wants to waste tax.
Yeah, we'll agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we all agree on that, though. The missing pieces of information relate to what happens to the water as it moves from the road into those culverts, or from the road just right into all of the parts of our yards that end up on River Street. And that survey, like GZA never walked inside that area. The engineer that we hired has walked that area from Phil and Cindy's house all the way up to the north, what do you call them? Up to your house where where they're recommending the pipe to go.
Triangle?
Yeah, well, no, he's gone
Oh,
further than,
culvert,
yeah, he's gone up to the culvert, you could walk all around the
So
back
he
of.
surveyed the private
Yeah,
property.
He didn't survey it with like equipment, but he's walked it twice, and he's done it before and after the Pine Hill Road is paved, or the road was stripped, or the pipe that went into the culvert near John Cortis's house was added. So he's been there several different times. He's been there 3 or 4 times.
Nothing was added by the.
Yeah, so they added from the Fitzgibbons to where John Cortis's house, there was a pipe added that directed the water to that culvert.
Oh, the one that, instead of going across the road, it went to the pipe. It was a tie-in.
And it goes into
Oh.
that,
Got it.
so, yeah. But he's walked the air, he's a civil, he's a road engineer with a specialty in storm drainage. And very qualified, and has walked it several different times in different kinds of weather, different seasons.
But in his information, I guess, gives us more reason to believe that an actual engineer's design of the system would be appropriate. If it's a smart use of money. This engineer also, we asked him to spitball, what would it cost to engineer such a system? And obviously there's a lot of variables, but he was kind of spitballing around $40,000. I can appreciate if I were the town administrator, I'd be trying to spend as little money as I could on designs and engineering as opposed to pipes and gravel. However, this might be a case where it makes sense to do that investment. Make sure that what does go on the ground ultimately will be useful for the future.
We'll definitely go back to the GZA.
Yeah.
With these notes and, if we don't mind that, we'll include you.
Well, if these guys agree, they don't have to agree now, but at some point, yeah.
There's also one of the other things that where there's flexibility, one of the things that, the engineer did was he did itemize it down to permitting, down to, looking at the wetlands that there are 3 wetlands that the roads, involve. What was another one? Conservation Commission.
Yeah,
or-
you gave-
He itemized it all, whether or not every single thing is absolutely necessary to do or cost as much as it was. It was a rough estimate.
But I understand, because when I,
Yeah.
who wants to spend money, you don't have to, but I think in this case.
No,
yes,
really.
Well, I mean, we're gonna.
Wisely spending what we need to spend to get the problem fixed.
Yeah, I think we all agreed if we're gonna do this, we want to do it right. We want to do it,
And in
right, we
budget.
want to do it right, and,
With the budget we have.
and it works away, but, yeah.
Inadvertently, I think you answered the 4 questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But I guess I want to ask if any of the other neighbors who are here tonight, have any specific questions that missed or points that we missed. Not seeing anyone jumping out of their chair.
Just that, I think the center, the heart of the request of the neighborhood is that it be professionally designed with a list of instructions from the highway department, that the design that was shared with us from the highway department, it's too, the task at hand is too complex. It is.
We hear you and we'll rectify that.
It also just seems the town has already invested so much in these various studies. Take and put it into the codes. In the design.
And I'll say again, we never stopped looking at the GZA. This is.
Yes.
Right,
And,
so,
we don't want you guys to be under stress every time it rains,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not the goal.
And it's interesting, because
I know the feeling.
some of my neighbors will remain nameless, they're probably deserve to be suffering from PTSD if they aren't.
Yeah,
When it rains.
that's good referrals for them.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I'm in an affected property. Just
Yeah.
Everybody,
My house.
I don't think there's
castle.
one, maybe
I
you
know,
got away with it.
I got away with it
But I
on
know
mine.
like Eric and I had flooded. Basements too, so.
no, I meant by this project.
No, I know, yeah, I'm just saying in general, Conway got hit hard.
Yeah.
But
But I think it's really important to understand that it's not one hit, it's a chronic stress that will continue. And that, there's enough capacity, there's ways to understand what it does
Yeah.
and remediate, which won't necessarily
Right,
solve, Hurricane Irene.
no one's disagreeing. with you.
I understand.
We
that,
hear
George.
you, yeah.
So, George, I'm gonna warn you, like, Veronique and I talk to GZA on a weekly basis, and they're long discussions. So we will get with you ahead of time and try to.
Yeah.
Get good times for you.
Okay.
I just want to be clear too, that one of the things you really like us to nail down is how much water will GZA project will come out of the culverts that were extended onto private property by the property owners.
Yeah, what is the overflow capacity and volume and velocity that is? And like, this is where I really don't know, like, that's where the model of how much water is there gonna be in a 20-year or whatever it is.
If you think about it,
How much is that water pushing out? And then why is there no plan? In the 342K project for discussion with private property owners about easements and swales? Because that water comes out in at more than 5 to 7 gallons a minute from those culverts onto our properties. not just mine, and, why, like, the only way to move that water is through swales. And it didn't used to be that great, the flow out of those culverts. It didn't used to be like that.
But,
So-
yeah, I hope it's, I mean, that 15-inch pipe, twenty would be better, the 15-inch pipe would catch a lot of the water.
But
Yeah,
Well, that's what we have to figure
Yeah,
out.
but there's still
one
times
by
like,
your chicken coop that goes to Emerson.
No,
Yeah.
no, he's not talking about that one. He's talking about the 15-inch pipe is the one that goes from Fitzgibbon's property around the whole of a year. Yeah.
it's kind of
All
like
the
a
way down
perimeter
to the
defense.
River Street.
Yeah, no, that was the.
Right, but yeah, okay,
Anyway, we gotta get more information.
yeah.
The system's
Yes.
doing two things. Part of the system that they envision catches water as it comes off Pine Hill, puts it in the ground in a pipe, brings it all the way around and down Baptist Hill and into the river. That presumably would take the bulk of the thing during normal times and a lot of the heavy rains. But in addition, overflow, the heaviest times, that pipe will fill up and then the overflow. And overflow goes down the hill past your house and over to Phil's place. And some of the overflow presumably goes under Pine Hill Road, past my chickens and down, through my backyard and down to Emerson Hall.
But there's also enormous amounts of overflow that come from, not from Pine Hill. On Pine Hill roadside, but come from across from Well, it actually ends up at Kevin Downey's house, but it comes down that whole side of the road. And it's not just sheeting, there are rivulets that come, there are seeps that come off the ridge. And,
Yeah, get out of the weeds.
yeah,
There's obviously lots of issues to address and we feel better.
Well, we hear you and we will definitely get questions answered.
Yeah, you guys did a great job educating yourselves and getting this back to us,
Yeah.
and we appreciate the input. We'll definitely get this GZA and I'll include you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, yeah, I think we all want the same thing with this, getting basements and, as little cost as possible to the town.
And I think there's plenty of private landowners here that are willing to. Because it's, saving the town roads is also, that's the thing, there's a.
Yeah.
Saving the town roads is also saving our property.
That's great.
And
I mean, I know-
that's why we want it on property.
It's,
Yeah.
it's synergetic.
One last
Energetic.
All right, thank you.
Another way to think of it is we've invested about $5,000 in engineering. For, on behalf of the town,
Yeah.
because it benefits all the neighbors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Dan, you good?
Pardon?
Are you good? Did you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
You, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see us again.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna be a little late.
All right, George, we'll be-
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll get your pizza.
Or get one for mine, I'll just show up on.
Yeah. Oh, all of it.
All right, so, no items anticipated 48 hours advance meeting. Any select board comments or concerns? Let's go to PA updates. Sure. No public comments.
So the only thing I wanted to point out really in my update, was something really interesting that happened, at the FERPAG Municipal Advocacy Advisory Committee. So this is a new group that they put together and, it's basically on how do we advocate for Franklin County towns and what's, And the FERCog has invested in Mass Track, which is a tracker of legislation that's coming in. And since we're right at the beginning of a two-year-long legislative process, and, they come in, I'm gonna forget the number. I want to say something crazy like 700 bills that that are coming in. Now, this group that had met on the 5th Wednesdays, and Chris, you and I were there for one of them. They came up with their list of priorities that they want to track, which I don't have in front of me, but what they're doing is they have this new link on their website where the FERCog staff is pulling from this Mass Track and keeping track of bills that we should really be watching and coming up with talking points, not only in favor, but some where if it's something you don't want. And it just seemed like such a great resource. And part of the question was, well, how do we get everybody more involved in this? So I was just looking for permission from the board to actually post this link everywhere I can think of, send it to all the boards and committees, because people who are looking, say sustainability, find some bills that they want to track about what's coming, it's just really handy resource. I can put it in the currents on the website, on Facebook.
We did that was cool, man.
Yeah.
Very
So,
early.
yeah. And especially given where we're at, it just seemed like a good time to.
So good for it.
I agree.
Be really cool, like, it's like, I mean, it's a great resource, but no one's gonna read these bills. Like, I mean,
Well, they don't have to read the bills because FERCog is digesting them for them
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm looking at that.
at the website. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's not like, 2 sentence plain
No.
English description of.
Yeah.
I think that would go a long way. I mean, I think this is a great resource, like it is, but I mean, I just think for like, better visibility and, user friendliness would be really great if they actually, condense them down into like plain English so people could understand. But I'm all for it. Yeah, definitely. Like more information.
Yeah, we have a lobby rule for mental health that condenses it down to
Yeah.
bullet points.
Okay, well, I can definitely pass that back to them because this is totally new.
Yeah.
So, and they want feedback on.
Yeah.
how
Well,
to
I
make
mean,
it
honestly,
easier.
it's just kind of like the warrant light that we do.
Yeah.
Like just take all of that, like.
Right.
legislative
That's a
language,
great
put it in,
idea.
Like, this is like, 2 sentences about
Mhm.
what this bill would do, why it matters, but I mean, that's a lot of work. For someone
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally looking into it. Great.
Okay. Okay, so other than that, it's just the usual updates on the grants and everything.
So
So,
what's the mod for the rule that it's due May 1st?
yeah, and I have to get, the engineering costs together for that. That's my last, only because I've got 2 grants that are due April 4th, and I just finished with the hazard mitigation one today, and last week I did the one before, and we're just doing MVP 2.0 and 26, so there's a lot of moving pieces. But the good news too about transfer station is that the base fee for recycling is $103.21, but right now only being charged $28.26 because of the revenue that's coming in. So that's great news. Also, I should have put on here, didn't update you, but Jan, Amin and I are working on the new Conway Mall. And I believe, we have got a $6,000 grant from Sustainable Materials Recovery Program from the state DEP. The 30 by 14 building for the swap shop that we're looking at is more like 14,000. And
Seems huge.
it is, but we're also gonna put in there a working room for the volunteers who are sorting, which will be air conditioned and heated so that they can actually be in there year round
That's awesome.
doing their work. So you need a bit of room for that. And, we have to get them up there and make sure, I want them to do a site visit and tell me that, what we need to do for the prep and all that. And actually, the transfer station attendants there's a lot left in the swap shop right now. So a couple of the attendants are gonna come in off work hours and pack it all up, and then Janivine's gonna get Salvation Army to come up and do a pickup and take it all away. So that we'll be starting from, from scratch, and then hopefully at some point soon, Ron and his crew can knock it down and get it out of there, so we can start doing the site prep.
Still burn season.
You know, I was gonna say, kind of do like fire practice up there. I remember when they used to, like, my kids used to love it when they were little, they'd watch like the fire
Yeah.
and like burn cars, like.
Well, did you see the sign that I sent that Louise found, the historical?
Yeah,
Just my bird, yeah.
Yeah.
be a good citizen,
Leave
burn
burn
your
your
trash.
Anyway,
About that gate.
the gate, he was supposed to call me today, I need, and didn't probably because he was away last week, but I'm getting an estimate. Excuse me, from L&L.
Yeah.
Fencing too, and we need that to be able to send to the insurance company, so I have to get an estimate for labor and materials.
And then, it's too early now, but I think it would be great, since we've done so much to the transfer station over the last 2 years. After, this fiscal year, since we started with the bulky waste to compile numbers. Like, here's what it was before we went to.
Oh, Jen does that.
Okay.
Yeah, she does a running count for us, so
Okay.
and what she does is she compares the same month the prior year.
Yeah.
To the.
So what I wanna do though is go back to the last year that we had before modified pays was row.
Yeah,
And.
Yeah.
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 Basically, I just wanna show how much less tonnage we're dumping.
right,
Both with regular trash and with bulky
Especially
and
since the
savings.
transfer station budget is going up.
And even,
Yeah.
even with bulky, I have not noticed a lot of stuff being tossed in the side. I'm a little sensitive to that.
That's the thing.
I know.
Yeah. The only thing I notice is stuff like, it's obvious that people have pickups. And they throw their recycling back there and it flies out
Well,
of pickups.
that's all.
No, but that does
Well, it's
happen
also
forever.
Yeah.
the Bud Light man, we call him, he drives around, I know where he lives down South Deerfield, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's for real?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, I've reported him like 5 times, but I think he's connected some connection. He drives around, deer spotting or whatever, and chunk, we've seen him. Chances. I wanted to collect all these cans and he goes to the Polish boat. And I wanted to put them all in the back of his truck. And he said I shouldn't do that. But I still. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Is that it?
Yep.
All right,
Good.
great. No announcements. Next meeting is gonna be March 17th.
And can I just remind everyone, I can't be here on March 24th, so we were gonna reschedule the 25th, that Tuesday, is that okay for everyone? Otherwise, I can just not be here, because as long as both of you are, it's still a forum, but I've got something on.
I gotta check with, we should have done that with finance here tonight, Karen, because, it'll have to be them scheduling too, yeah.
Just tomorrow. We'll be fine.
Okay, if I, all right, so you're fine if I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
because I think it's just.
Yeah.
There's no warrants, it's just. budget.
Yeah.
So, okay. That's fine.
Anything else from anybody aside from that?
I'm good. Motion to adjourn.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.